My name is Kirsten Paige, and I'm an assistant teaching professor in the Department of Music. Before I begin my lecture, I just want you to listen. So, what did you just hear? Did you hear birds and insects, people singing, harvesting perhaps? Were you able to distinguish the people's voices from the bird sounds? Why don't we listen again? Now, when you listen, think about distinguishing the human and non-human sounds. And think about why singing in this way, to and with the forest, might coincide with harvesting crops. What you just heard was a group of Kaluli people living in Papua New Guinea in the early 1990s, harvesting their staple starch from sago palms. The anthropologist who made this recording, Steve Feld, explains, "As you listen, picture this. You're standing in a very shallow creek by a grove of sago palms, the kind of trees from which Kaluli extract their staple starch. Directly across from me, on the other side of a split palm, ready for scraping, sits Ulahi. She is surrounded by her daughter, her youngest sons, and their friend. As she works, Ulahi sings in a melodic style called kaluba. Another singer echoes with a rhythmic whistled breathing. They scrape the pith with stone pounders, swung overhead like an axe. This kaluba is essential to this particular agricultural practice. Ulahi and her family are singing to and with the trees and birds. The Kaluli understand themselves as forest voices of the rainforest, and sing with birds, weather, water, insects, and their ancestors, embodied in the form of birds. For them, nature is music too. The sounds of the rainforest exist in a multi-layered soundscape that make activities like harvesting possible. The style of singing that the Kaluli are engaging in is called lift-up over sounding, where human singing is just another element of a vibrant natural landscape, not separate from it. In the track you heard, the sounds of the scrapers, human voices, insects, and birds join together into a sonic collective that seems totally integrated into the forest. The forest sings to you, and you sing back to it. Feld explains that everything is mixed into an interlocking soundscape. The Kaluli hear their rainforest world as overlapping, dense, layered. People's voices layer with the trees. In this recording, you heard birds, insects, people's voices, and their tools engaging in lift-up over sounding together. In Feld's words, this rainforest musical ecology is a tuning fork. The study of this form of music making is called acoustomology, a term that was coined by Feld in the early 1990s during his early fieldwork in Papua New Guinea. It suggests that singing and listening is a form of knowing and understanding your environment. Here, what becomes known through singing to the forest is the topography and spatial geography of the forest and its resources. But by engaging in lift-up over sounding, the Kaluli also come to know their family, their food, their environment, and their ancestors. After scraping the palms, the sago is gathered into a trough, flushed with water and beaten with cane sticks. Ulahi continues to sing during this process, her voice echoed by her family beating sago in troughs nearby. At the beginning of this lecture, I mentioned that this kaluba establishes a sonic map of the forest and a map of collective relational knowledge, or knowledge that's shared with other humans and with non-humans. As these singers spread out, that map of sound unfolds through the forest. These songs contain what Feld refers to as trunks and branches. Together, those elements of the song, particularly as they are sung with insects and birds scattered throughout the forest, map space and collective knowledge. Feld explains that Ulahi composed this song after her daughter married a man living in Maluma. The song's branches start in Maluma, and in later verses name other places, creating a map of the major lands and creeks by her daughter's sago palms. More metaphorically, Ulahi's song equates food with family. Her longing for her daughter, like her longing for sago, means traveling through these places. Singing about these places and their inhabitants make those places feel real and immediate. Singing embeds knowledge within space and space within knowledge, and it deploys sound and singing as tools for traversing time, ecologies, and memories of life, death, mourning, and weeping. Singing is part of this environment and part of the people living there. Global warming doesn't just affect the availability of food or the ability to harvest it here, but the continuity of culture, of family bonds, of relationships with the forest and the non-human, of funerary practices and ancestral mourning. Global warming is not just about the forest as a pristine, empty space worth protecting, or as a resource. It's about cultural stability too, which in this case links singing to harvesting. In the years that have transpired since Feld made these recordings, exploratory drilling in the Bosavi region has led to over 100 miles of pipeline through the remote rainforest, logging, and the loss of biodiversity. The Bosavi aren't hearing just birds and insects, water and rain anymore. Now they're hearing helicopters and oil rigs, chainsaws, and bulldozers. This is a loss of the forest, but it's also a loss of culture and the ability to harvest, not just because resources are disappearing, but because harvesting as a cultural technique, unfolding within the forest with family and birds and ancestors, is becoming increasingly impossible. As I conclude this lecture, I ask you to listen to another of Feld's recordings. What do you hear now? If the soundscape were to disappear, what would disappear with it?
Come on, give you.